I'm Maori from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And in my culture, we place immense value on the concept of relationships and contacts with people that are kanohi ki kanohi, or when translated, relationships that are face to face. Kanohi ki kanohi implies that by taking the time and energy to arrange and travel to meet somebody, you are showing the respect and honor that this person is worthy of your efforts. Face to face, seeing, hearing, and speaking. If my smartphone, my tablet, my laptop distracts my ability to be fully present during our sessions together, then kanohi ki kanohi is broken. If your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop distracts your ability to be fully present in our sessions together, then kanohi ki kanohi is broken. Technology is marvelous and amazing. With a tweet, a Facebook post, an Instagram pic, an email, I can connect with ecumenical friends all over the world and share with them my experience here in Central Committee. During a session, if I need information, a document, a resource, with a few clicks, I can find the help I need to resource my own participation in the meeting. And yet I must be mindful, because consensus building demands of me my full presence in respect of the process, in respect of the work that is set before us, and in respect for the people who have traveled so far to meet face to face. Sisters and brothers, for consensus to grow and to flourish here in this meeting, we must bring all our gifts and our skills and receive with hope, humility, and openness the gifts of others, allowing for the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and together build this common mind. It is an important task worthy of all our effort, all our focus, all our dedication, and all of our commitment. Moderator, with these words, I conclude the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tara. And now that we have revisited the consensus decision-making process, may I remind us that we are in a decision-making mode. And so, we like to, at this stage, ask us that we've been occupying a house without the official invitation. And to continue to enjoy the hospitality of this house, it's important to be officially welcomed. And I would like to ask the presiding bishop of the Church of Norway, Bishop Helga Byfuglien, to bring us a word of greeting, so that as you continue to enjoy yourself and occupy this house, you are fully welcome. Welcome, Bishop.
Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, it's so nice to see you all here in this hall, in this city, in our country, and also be the hosting church for this meeting. Actually, last time I was standing, not just here, but over there, was when we had our National Synod here in April. We were not so many people as here, but we were as much eager as you are to go ahead with all the issues that you are to discuss, to work with, and also to bring forward. This meeting is taking place in the midst of Norway, in the third largest city in our country. I will not use my time to talk much about Trondheim, because I'm sure that the mayor of the city, Rita Ottervik, she will be hosting us for the reception later today. She will be very proud to talk about her city. But I will bring my greetings and use it for telling you what kind of landscape have you come to when you are here in Norway and hosted by the Church of Norway. Norway is one of the countries in the Nordic region of Europe. You know that. And we have very much in common as nations and as churches. The population of Norway is now 5.2 million people. It's increasing all the time. When I was at school, it was 3.5. And that is much because of the migration to our country. Until recently, Norway was quite a homogeneous society. Since the last archbishop had to flee this city in 1537, the established Church of Norway has been Lutheran. Cuius regio, eius religio, who was the king, decides for the religion, to translate it in a way, was the principle that made, since that time, the king the head of our Lutheran Church. He paid for the priests, he decided the liturgy, and the local communities was responsible for the churches, the buildings. And actually, to some extent, this lasted until 2012. Because it was not until then that the constitution was changed in Norway. So now we are a secular society, but still the Church of Norway, the Lutheran Church, is mentioned in the constitution, defined as the established church and supported financially as such. And actually, but even though before that, the Church of Norway developed to be a congregational church, an episcopal church, and a synodal church. And the synod, the National Synod, has for many years had the competence to decide for the most important decision within the church. I must also add that it is a part of our constitution that every religion, church, and stance of life are to be supported at the same level as the Church of Norway. And that is a principle that is of quite a big value for our society, because that makes it possible for people coming to Norway with different religions and stance of life, different churches. They are able to establish their community, to worship, to educate, and to have that freedom of religion which is to be in our country. Not before the 1st of January 2017, we are counting down these days, the Church of Norway is legally independent. So we are working now very hard to find out how to organize our church facing the future and our future challenges. What is very specific for Norway, also to some extent from the other Nordic countries and churches, is the big gifts given by the different Christian lay movements, which arose in the 19th century, especially working among children and youth, deaconal institutions, and also missionary work. They have been all the time independent from the Church of Norway, formally, but though they are and have seen their work under the umbrella of the Church. And their contribution is huge to the people of Norway, with their competence, with their passion, and also with a big voluntary impact to our society. When it comes to the numbers of members of the Church of Norway, percentage it's decreased because of the development of our population. But still 3.9 million people of Norway are members of our church. The group growing most in our society is those not being member anywhere. 14% of our populations are not member in any religion, church, or stance of life. The Muslims counts about 150,000 people. And the biggest of the Christian churches are the Roman Catholics. But what is also special for Norway is that there is quite a big movement of what we will call secular humanism. Up till 90,000 members these days, and their impact to the society have been quite huge in the last years. So, what do we face as challenges as the established Church of Norway these days? I think that we have two facts to face. The one is that our society is getting more and more secularized. That is a positive thing, and also brings us challenges as church. We see that it is not self-evident for parents being members of our church to bring their babies for baptism, as it used to be. And we see that less people are coming regularly for the Sunday service, and the knowledge of Bible and Christianity is being reduced. On the other hand, we also face that even though 3.9 million people still are choosing all the time to be members of our church, that is a fact. Even if you are asking people in the streets, many will say, I don't believe in God, but I want to be a member of the church. So, it is important to belong to a church, even if the personal belief is not so very brave. And this gives our church many options to give the gospel to people, to lift up that grace gives us liberation to serve and to be a neighbor, and gives us freedom to be what we are called to be. Ecumenical work has, through the years, been very important for the Church of Norway, within our country and outside. The Ecumenical Council of Norway is including a quite broad part of the church family, from the Orthodox side to the Quakers and the Pentecostals. We are meeting regularly, and the confidence between us are growing, even if there are issues that are very difficult to handle because we disagree. We also find it very important for our church to contribute to the broader religion and life stance community. So when there was established 20 years ago a cooperation council for religions, faith communities and life of stance, the Church of Norway was important and is important. This is important to seek to give space for every believer to have the right to worship, to educate, to communicate, and to be open to the society with their own belief. We also find it very important the different dialogues that have been on with the Muslims in Norway and also with the Mosaic community, and we find it very important to be there and find it very big part of our responsibility as a big majority church in the society. The gift of ecumenism and the importance of ecumenical relations are increasingly estimated in the Church of Norway. To be in solidarity with churches worldwide, get to know new landscapes where Christian brothers and sisters are living their lives, is a gift and challenges us to be in solidarity, to share, to try to understand and to support, and also be receivers of the gifts that the whole worldwide church are bringing to us. Ecumenism is coming closer in so many ways because also the society of Norway is now a much more diverse than only 20 years ago. I see the work that you also are within in the WCC as the church's answers to the prayer of Jesus Christ our Lord in John chapter 17. His pray that they all may be one. And our answer is that we pray that we may be one, as he wants us to be, and to pray that we may be one, so everyone may see. We are together forward. We are together on the pilgrims of justice and peace, together with churches and Christians all over the world. The Church of Norway, we want to be responsible. We want to take part in that. And with hosting you these days, this is also a part of our contribution. We are honored by having you here, and we do look forward to the meeting we will have in the days to come, in the church, in the small talks, in the discussions, in what is growing between us when we are together in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. So, I wish you all heartily welcome to Trondheim, to Norway, and to be here as guests with the host being the Church of Norway. May God bless you, and may God bless us all, and may God help us to be witness of the grace setting us free to be neighbors in the world which we are a part of and which God has given us to live in, to go forward with, to have the joy in, and also struggle in. Together we are here in the face of God, working for justice and peace. Welcome.
Thank you. We'd like to thank the presiding Bishop Helga, and this is an important day for her. It's her birthday. Shall we sing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Helga. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
also like to offer this small gift, which is the cross as a sign of our mark, of our journey and our faith. Thank you. So now, friends, brothers and sisters, we can enjoy the hospitality, the gracious hospitality, because the house is opened. I'd like now to acknowledge the city of Trondheim as a place of pilgrims and pilgrimage, and invite our brother Reverend Knut Rafsdal, General Secretary of the Christian Council of Norway, to bring greetings. Welcome.
Moderator, thank you for the warm welcome. As you said, Trondheim is a city of pilgrims. There is a history, a 1,000 years history of pilgrims coming to this city. And I am very sure that you will hear more about that during the days here in Trondheim. The Christian Council of Norway has had a pilgrimage from Oslo to Trondheim prior to this meeting. And we have seen this as part of the pilgrimage of justice and peace. We started in Oslo at May 24th and arrived here in Trondheim last night. The message that we have tried to convey during this pilgrimage is that faith and life stance communities in Norway can help promote mutual understanding and respect for shared values, and therefore we deplore violent extremism and hate speech and enemy pictures of one another. And I invited and got a positive answer for almost 30 leaders of faith and life stance communities in Norway, Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, secular humanist leaders, to walk with me for 1 to 3 days in order to build relationships and in order to do local dialogue meetings with local leaders in religious communities, as well as representatives from among politicians and representatives from schools and police, in how we as faith and life stance communities might contribute to good local societies and communities around the country. And these are some of the people. They have not been with me all the time, but they are representatives of the almost 30 people that have been with me for 1 to 3 days. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you as representatives of my fellow pilgrims for following me on this way, and also supporting the Christian Council and the churches of Norway in promoting mutual understanding and respect for the differences that we also heard Bishop Helga talk about. My hope and my wish is that this pilgrimage might be important in local communities along the way and in Norway as such. And I'm also happy to bring you greetings at the beginning of this meeting from the churches in Norway May God bless your days here in Trondheim, and may God bless the Central Committee. Thank you, moderator.
Knut, thank you so very much. I've been so tremendously excited about this pilgrimage and about their walking, and wanted to go out and join them on part of it, but have been following them on Facebook and looking at the pictures all the way. And what a perfect way to welcome all of us to have this pilgrimage at the very beginning, and to think about the difference that they've made with all of the leaders and the conversations and the dialogue. It's just so very, very impressive. So we want to give you a cross as well, and have it be a part of the Christian Council in Norway. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, it's great again. I got to see the picture of you all on the boat. That was really cool. Yeah. That was the coolest part. Yeah.
Thank you once again. We'll now like to take the roll call, and I invite us to document number in402 and ask the General Secretary to lead us through the roll call and the sitting of substitutes and the rest, please.
Thank you, moderator. It is indeed my privilege also to welcome the Central Committee to this meeting. And it's a special privilege to welcome you to my country, but also to my church, but also to the landscape where part of my childhood was. I lived for 6 years on the other side of this fjord you will see outside this hotel. Så det trevligt att vara I Trøndelag. So we are happy to be here, and I think we will have many opportunities to see the beauty, but also the manifold of the landscape as we see it, but also of the spiritual and society we live in. We have a long list of beautiful names of participants in this meeting. And we should take the time to recognize those who are here as members of the Central Committee, as substitutes for some, and also replacements. Also the names of those who have offered apologies, and the names of the moderators of the commissions. In addition to that, we also have a long list of names of advisors attending the meeting. I will not read all the names of the advisors, but I will read all these names of members of the Central Committee. And I start with the leadership of the Central Committee and ask you to quickly and loudly announce your presence when I read your name. Dr. Agnes Aboom.
Present.
His Eminence Metropolitan Professor Dr. Gennadius of Sasima. Present. Bishop Dr. Mary Ann Swenson.
Present.
Reverend Dr. Sang Chang. The Right Reverend Mark MacDonald. Present. Reverend Gloria Ulua Alvarado. Professor Dr. Mary Ann Pleitjes van Heuvel. Archbishop Emeritus Dr. Anders Weirud. These were the presidents, the 5 presidents. Some of them presidents are not present. And then I came to the members of the Central Committee. Bishop Alan Francis Abernethy, Mr. Joinata Adhikari, the Very Reverend Dr. Artuk Alexiuk, Reverend Cora Luisa Antonio Matamoros, the Right Reverend Dr. Festus Ambe Asana, Most Reverend Dr. Philip Aspinall, Mrs. Kirsten Auken, Dr. Abahaile Mariam Melese Ayenev, His Eminence Archbishop Dr. Viken Aikasian, Reverend Dr. Samson Alusupo Adenye Ayokundle, Bishop Samuel Robert Asaria, Reverend Dr. Huyun Bey, His Eminence Metropolitan Professor Dr. Bishoy of Damietta, Bishop Petra Bosse Huber, Reverend Marianne Brekken, Bishop Eva Brunne, Reverend Dr. Sophia Kamnerin, Right Reverend Dr. Dilorai Ranjit Kanagajabe, Reverend Professor Dr. Yang En Cheng, Reverend Augusto Chipese, Very Reverend Ray Koster, Mrs. Anna Maria Velila de Midido, Reverend Dr. Thomas de Vries, Ms. Paula Maria der Matoyon, Bishop Sally Dick, His Eminence Metropolitan Professor Dr. Elpidoforos of Bursa, Reverend Professor Dr. Fernando Enns, Ms. Emily Evans, Mrs. Selina Falk, Reverend Daniel Angel Favaro, Reverend Dr. Paul Gardner, Mrs. Anne Glynn McCall, Archpriest Mihail Gundyaev, Bishop Dr. Martin Herman Hein, Reverend Anne Heitmann, Reverend Dr. Martin Hirzel, Madame Comfort Bonu, Reverend Dr. Henrietta Hotabarat Lebang, Reverend Dr. Stefan Igumnov, Dr. Theodora Isa, Dr. Andrei Jeftik, Reverend Carl Johnson, Reverend Baoping Khan, Mr. Thomas Hyono Kang, Bishop Yona Musingwa Katoneni, His Beatitude Patriarch Jean Baudouin Kaiwa, the Very Reverend Dr. Jacques Khalil, Professor Dr. Marina Kolovopoulou, Mrs. Judith Königsdörfer, Reverend Martina Victoria Kopeshka, Professor Dr. Dimitra Kokura, Reverend Christie, His Eminence Metropolitan Seraphim Kikotis, Reverend Evedith Yaricha Landrau, Mrs. Eleanor I. Lawrence, Reverend Nadu Maje Martina Grace Lawson Lade Sinzu, Reverend Dr. Man Hong Lin, Bishop Dr. Alex Gesa Malasusa, Ms. Tutai Moke, Mrs. Marceline Bingasani Maulawanga, Mr. Yilikal Shifera Meselu, Mrs. Claudia Miloszewski, Anne Mitchell, Mr. Philip Modoyal Mani, Reverend Sarah Moore, Reverend George Murat, Reverend Siam Mungsak, Reverend Canon Dr. Leslie Nathaniel, Reverend Dr. Waxium Idosa Nigeri, Mrs. Margarita Nelyubova, His Eminence Metropolitan Zakaria Mar Nikolovos, His Eminence Metropolitan Professor Dr. Nifon of Targoviste, Reverend Professor Dr. Renta Nishihara, Mr. Stanley Nofsinger, Bishop Dr. Shibuzo Raphael Opoko, Reverend Yam Ku Pao, Mr. Carlos Peña, Bishop Sophia Peterson, Bishop Simo Paura, Very Reverend Archimandrite Filare, Bishop Dr. Isaac Mar Philoxenos, Reverend Professor Dr. Jerry Pillay, Ms. Terry Piri Semonian, Reverend Dr. Staccato Powell, Mrs. Roma Ann Nisha Prodhan, Dr. Audi B. Kawas, Dr. Endor Modeste Rakoto, Padre Rex R.B. Reyes, Jr., Dr. Anne K. Riggs, Reverend Dr. Sarah Rogers, His Eminence Metropolitan Eustatius Mataroham, Reverend Dr. Rangari Rai Rutoro, Reverend Canon Aida Consuelo Sanchez Navarro, Reverend Emma Ezi Jo Sepa, Bishop Dr. Daniel Jensen Seenkulo, Reverend Silishebo, Reverend Miriam Spies, Reverend Dr. George Tamer, the Right Reverend Arnold C. Temple, Reverend Dr. June Totten, Ms. Sonia Ziovani, the Most Reverend Emmanuel Yoshi Udofia, Reverend Karin van der Breuke, Archbishop Urmas Wilma, Mr. Samuel Derry Wairimu, Reverend Dr. Angelique Walker-Smith, Reverend Dr. Sharon Watkins, Ms. Miriam Jane Waby, Bishop John F. White, Reverend Dr. Ki Sing Wong, Dr. Francina Yoteni, His Grace Bishop Johannes. These were the announced and present members of the Central Committee. I know that some of the names are people who will come later in the meeting. Some of them are in Crete for the Holy and Great Orthodox Synod. There might be also other reasons why some are late. We have apologies from the following: from Reverend Abednego Adingroho, from His Eminence Archbishop Dr. Narek Almetsian, from His Grace Bishop Alexander of Toledo and the Bulgarian Diocese, Reverend Dr. Carol Baltimore, Reverend Jeffrey Black, Bishop Dr. Gustav Bölski, Dr. Lucius Burley III, Reverend Elder Lautalagi T. Falevau, Ms. Valeria Fornerone, Right Reverend Dr. Peter Foster, His Eminence Metropolitan Gabriel of Nea, Ionia, and Philadelphia, His Grace Bishop Irenee of Australia and New Zealand, His Beatitude Patriarch John X, Mrs. Tagolin Kabekabe, Reverend Dr. Michelin Kamba Kasongo, His Holiness Supreme Patriarch and Catholicos of all Armenians, Karekin II, Ms. Cynthia Kent, Ms. Shulamit Kriner, Mrs. Jeska Biere Laki Lukudu, Reverend Tafu M. Lusama, Reverend Tarunui Maria, Reverend Dr. Pekka Metsu, Reverend Jean-François Dibubakunsi, His Eminence Metropolitan Nicola Ophir, Reverend Grady Parsons, Magister Elizabeth Pausch, Reverend Dr. Melena Maimua Puloka, Archbishop Onespore Roya, Ms. Sheila Salomo, Reverend Laurent Schlumberger, Reverend Willem T.P. Semarmata, Ms. Iveta Starkova, Reverend Dr. Michael Tita, His Eminence Metropolitan Dr. Vasilius of Constantia Amoshotos, and Archbishop Dr. Joris Verkamen. For these, we have the following substitutes, and I ask you to respond when your name is read. Ms. Talviki Ahonen, Father Yakovos Andriopoulos, Reverend Dr. Cornelia Fulkrug Weitzel, Father Johan Livius Jebelan, Reverend Elder Evni Mamo Jr., Very Reverend Father Husik Mardi Rosian, Dr. Marie Christine Michau, Ms. Jennifer Mosher, Reverend Dr. Binsar Jonathan Bakpahan, Father Gregory Pelusi, Reverend Francois Pihate, Ms. Elena Speranskaya, Reverend Karen Georgia Antoinette Thompson, Reverend Robina Winbush. These were the names of the present members and the substitutes. We have also been given names for substitutes for permanent replacements, and I read both the name of those who are presented as replacement and for whom they are replacing. Reverend Michel Charbonnier for Miss Valeria Fornerone. Reverend M.A. Daniel for Bishop Taranath Sagar. The Right Reverend Dr. Robert Innes for the Right Reverend Dr. Peter Foster. Mrs. Elisabeth Krause Wilma for Ms. Shulamit Kriener. And Ms. Sheila Salomo for Mr. Tony Bavoruntu. Moderator, the Central Committee needs to take an action of receiving these replacements as members of the Central Committee.
Can I see by show of cards from Central Committee members if we receive these replacements and substitutes? Thank you.
Moderator, then I will invite to recognize as moderators of commissions and advisory groups, Reverend Frank Chicane, who is a candidate for the moderator as Commission of the Churches on International Affairs. Present. Metropolitan Dr. Mor Gevarghese Corelius. Reverend Dr. Susan Derber. And Dr. Emily Welty. By this, moderator, we have come to the list of advisors, and we are honored and privileged to have so many advisors, bringing both representativity of the wider ecumenical family and of different capacities to our work, and we welcome you all warmly. I am also privileged to welcome the former General Secretary, Reverend Dr. Sam Kobia. I also bring you the greetings from Reverend Dr. Konrad Reiser, who was not able to join us for this meeting. And I also remember to all of us that since the last Central Committee, we followed Reverend Dr. Philip Potter to his rest in Lübeck in Germany. Madam Moderator, that was the wrong one. The list of those who passed away from our ecumenical fellowship will be mentioned in the worship service in the cathedral this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Moderator. Thank you, General Secretary. We therefore then move on to the agenda and the timetable. May you all feel very welcome as you look out for the agenda and your timetables, and the General Secretary will present the framework.
We have in our hands and on the screen in front of us the proposed agenda for this Central Committee meeting. The theme is supposed to be pilgrimage, discerning the landscapes together. We meet from this day until the end of Tuesday, the 28th of June. And you will see from the program that we have prepared both for plenary session to address important and burning issues for us all as churches and as societies, mostly in the mornings, one of them on Sunday afternoon. Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace, plenary tomorrow, Unity plenary Friday, Middle East plenary on Saturday, Religion and Violence plenary on Sunday, and Child Rights plenary on Monday. This day has several sessions of business, calling the meeting together, presenting the reports from the moderator and the General Secretary, and the opening worship in the cathedral and our procession towards the cathedral. This will be announced later today and give you all the details about that. And it's also followed by a reception by the mayor of Trondheim. Tomorrow we have, after the plenary, we have business sessions with presentations of issues to be tabled, reports to be tabled, and so forth. And according to the tradition of this country, we will celebrate St. John's Eve as an outdoor event, the longest day in the year, celebrated, of course, outdoor if the weather invites us to do so. And you will hear more about how we do that tomorrow. The following days will be in plenaries, but also regional meetings, committees. We have our afternoon prayers in the Bucket Church, which is just on the other side of the river. And we come to Sunday with worship in local churches. The following afternoon as a time for reflection and work. And we come to the 2 last days where we receive reports and make our common minds in elections, in decision-making, in receiving the reports, closing on Tuesday afternoon. This is a short and brief overview of the program, and more details you would be given as we move on.
Thank you, General Secretary. May I see Central Committee members, whether you accept this, if there are any comments, as a working document with more details later? I see no blue card, so we accept this, we adopt this as a working agenda. Thank you. We shall now move on to the presentation of our previous minutes of the last Central Committee that was held in Geneva, the second Central Committee that was held from the 2nd to the 9th July. You have received those minutes, and I'd like to request whether there are any corrections, any comments, because we had asked you to submit that before, and so I give us again a chance to do that. Is there anyone who has not received the minutes before? This is the last Central Committee minutes. Are there any corrections? I see Dr. Quavas on the floor. Please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you. The mic 4. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I don't have corrections, but I have to mention that the minutes was received or posted to us on the 8th of June, which is after 2 complete years. Already we've tackled this at the Executive Committee, and we've decided, just for information for our colleagues, that minutes must be distributed 6 months maximum period after the meeting. So unfortunately, I have to approve them without having enough time to read them all. And this is a not good practice for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Quavas, that the Executive Committee did take note that they came late and has suggested that minutes be received 6 months after the meeting. But there were circumstances that made it not possible for the relevant people to do that. Can we accept what Dr. Quavas has moved? May I see your cards? Thank you very much. Any other comments? If my sight is not good, please shout or let someone else help me. All right. I therefore move that we accept these minutes. Can I see the show of cards? Thank you very much. And then we can move on. We are now going to call on the General Secretary to draw our attention to document Gen 04.
Thank you, Moderator. We have, as usual, standing committees meeting during the meeting, and you will see the list in document number Gen 04. I will not read these names now again, but we should all notice that there are one committee for communications, one for finance policy, one for governance and nomination, one for policy reference, one for program, and one for public issues. There are standing committees appointed already at the last meeting of the Central Committee. Those of you who are replacing or substituting others are replacing them also in these committees. The Public Issues Committee meet at other times and also during other periods than the other committees. Otherwise, the committees are meeting at the same time as allocated in the agreed agenda.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has not got the document? These standing committees of the Central Committee were already approved at our last. Yes, I see. Would you like?
It is not online.
It's not online, okay. So, can the stewards please facilitate members to get the copies? Gen 04, and you will also see the proposed rapporteurs and proposed moderators of the standing committees, as well as the advisors to each of those committees. It's on now?
It's online now.
Okay. Just look at it and remind yourself before we move into a decision. Has everyone got them now? I see no hand. Can we approve this standing committee membership with the advisors, the rapporteurs, and the moderators? Thank you. I see no blue card. Thank you very much. Oh, there is a blue card. Sorry. Please, would you like to speak? There's a mic. Sorry.
Voy a hablar en español. Mi nombre es Aida Consuelo Sánchez Navarro, de la Iglesia Episcopal, y mi nombre no aparece en ninguno de los comités.
The name is missing.
The name is missing.
Yes, sir.
We'll add it.
We will add it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other that I may have missed? Thank you for that. I don't see any other card. Thank you. Then we move on. We'll add Sanchez on the list.
You found it.
You found it.
Okay.
Good.
It's already solved.
The matter is already solved. Thank you very much. Anne, do you?
Moderator,
Yes.
I would just like to make a note that there are almost twice as many advisors as members in the Policy Reference Committee. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful addition to the work, but it also expands the group in the room. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the room. It may be a challenge. I don't know how the advisors are assigned to committees, but I'd just like to make a note of it as we approve this document.
Thank you, member. I think that is an important observation. We may have to consult with the advisors and see whether we can ask some to move to other committees. At least I do note your concern. Mayor, General Secretary, would you have a word on that?
No, I think that's what to be said at the moment. Of course, the moderator of this committee has to be aware of it as the proceedings are conducted, but I have no other comment at this point.
Thank you. And if we should not find an appropriate solution, may we encourage the advisors to allow the Central Committee members space to engage and give themselves more of a listening role. Thank you. We'll then move on. According to our rules, so with that observation, I think we have approved the standing committees, the advisors, as document Gen 04. Is that all right? Thank you. We'll then move on to the report of the Executive Committee. And as you remember, with the change of our rules, the Executive Committee accounts to the Central Committee. And I'm going to ask the Vice Moderator, Bishop Marianne Svensson, to present the report of the Executive Committee.
Thank you, Moderator. And for this report, you will all want to look at document Gen 02. So make sure you have that document in front of you as I offer this report. It is important for the Executive Committee to report to the Central Committee the work that we have been doing for the last 2 years. It is a part of the rules and a way we establish the work that we would be doing during these years.
Just a minute. Do we all have Gen 02, report of the Executive Committee? Can I see whoever? Do we all have it?
Yeah.
I see a blue card here.
All right.
Just a moment.
Oh, good.
Bishop.
Make sure everyone has the report.
This is the report of the Executive Committee to the Central Committee. It's an accountability report to the Central Committee. Okay, I think now you can continue.
It is important for the Executive Committee to report to the Central Committee our work over these last 2 years. It is a part of the rules now, and it's been established as the way that we will work together. But I think it's very important for me to share with you at the very beginning of the report that everything that we have done as an Executive Committee during these last 2 years has been related to our pilgrimage of justice and peace, either by the agenda as we met together or by the venue in which we held our meetings, and a combination of both, actually. We've been very careful with our distinctive roles, the mandate of the Executive Committee and the mandate of the Central Committee. There's been a strong relational element and character in the way in which we have been working, and you will see in the report a clear list of the decisions taken and how the subcommittees of the Executive Committee have functioned in preparing for the decisions of the Executive Committee or in preparing for recommendations that would go to the Central Committee. All of this in accordance with the mandate that's been provided to us. So now, if you will, look clearly at the report. I would like to walk us through it together because it is quite comprehensive. You'll see in the beginning that we held our first meeting in Marseille before the last Central Committee, and then after that, we held 5 Executive Committee meetings. One in Geneva, right after the last Central Committee, then one in November of 2014 in Paralimni, Cyprus, then one in Armenia last June, and then last November in Marseille again, and then just the last 2 days here in Trondheim before the beginning of this meeting. We decided earlier not to have an Executive Committee meeting in April, believing that we could accomplish our work in the last 2 days here before the meeting here in Trondheim. But we do plan to meet as an Executive Committee in November in China. The work of the committee is extensively reflected in the minutes that have been presented to the Central Committee for approval, as well as in the detailed account of each meeting that has been sent by the General Secretary to the members of the Central Committee. And so this report is, in a sense, a summary of both, and you'll see it's got 5 chapters, and the last chapter begins to respond to the questions that were raised by the Central Committee in our last meeting. So you can see what the 5 chapters are, and I'm going to go through each one. The first chapter being an account of our meetings. We affirmed that all of the meetings of the Executive Committee have been intentionally part of our common pilgrimage of justice and peace, that at the full meetings of the Executive Committee, we've included significant relational components, offering members of the committee the opportunity to discover the spiritual, theological, historical heritage of the member churches and to interact with them. And at each meeting of the Executive Committee, we have benefited from the presence of advisors and ecumenical partners or experts who accompanied the work and places where St. Paul and Barnabas had preached. We visited these places, and also we found ourselves in this pilgrimage of justice and peace really immersed in the Middle East and being present in a place that was still a divided country, where we had to cross the border to go from one part to another there in the country. We had a discussion with the United Nations Special Advisor on Cyprus. We heard a helpful perspective on the prospects for unity in the island and its people. We were exposed to the situation in the Middle East, and we issued a statement on forced displacement, refugees, and internally displaced persons in the Middle East. And we reaffirmed our commitment to launch a study on violence in the name of religion and violence against religions. We met with His Eminence Nikos Anastasiadis, President of the Republic of Cyprus, and with His Beatitude, the Archbishop of Cyprus. We benefited from the presence of the advisors from the Middle East Council of Churches and ACT Alliance. Then last summer, we went to Armenia, generously hosted by His Holiness Supreme Patriarch and Catholicos of all Armenia, Karakan II, one of our presidents here in our Central Committee. This, too, was a part of our pilgrimage of justice and peace as we participated in the centennial commemoration of the Armenian genocide, and we expressed our solidarity with the Armenian people and issued a statement on the centenary of the Armenian genocide. We met with Catholicos Karakan and were introduced to his life and witness in the church in Armenia. We met with the president of Armenia and he received a delegation of us and expressed his deep gratitude that we have officially recognized the Armenian genocide. There too, we benefited from the participation of advisors from the Reference Group on Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace and from the Conference of European Churches and from ACT Alliance. Then last November, we met in Geneva and Basel right after the tragic events in Paris. We had a Sunday service there at St. Peter's Cathedral and prepared this with the Protestant Church of Geneva, including long moments of silence and prayers for the victims of the events. The statement on the terrorist attack in Paris was issued by the Executive Committee and read during the worship service. We took the opportunity to visit the Ecumenical Center and be introduced to staff there. And prior to the meeting, we had a meeting with moderators of commissions in order to assess the work of the commissions and work together on our pilgrimage of justice and peace. The moderators were also invited to participate in the committee and subcommittee work so that the programmatic interactions could be strengthened. Once again, we had advisors present with us, and that was a great benefit. And finally, the meeting here this week, we ended our executive committee meeting only yesterday, just before beginning now the Central Committee. So let's move to Chapter 2, decisions that have been taken by the Executive Committee. And you can see, I will just kind of show you these as we have them here. We have adopted the financial reports for 2014 and 15, the revised budgets, approved capital expenditure limits, approved a transfer of building development project, a transfer to the Assembly Fund, a transfer to program funds, a transfer of the general reserves to the program funds, the policy for reimbursement of travel costs, the issues of a guarantee to the bank. We've received the reports of the Audit Committee, and then we received the summary program reports for 14 and 15, and approved the program plans for 2015 and 2016, approved the integration of the the Advocacy Alliance as an ecumenical initiative within the World Council of Churches. Then you can see the public statements. I've already listed some of them, the public statements that we have made during this season. We had a minute on the racial tension in the United States. We had a statement on the responses to the migrant crisis, a statement on the situation in Israel and Palestine, a minute on the election in Myanmar, a statement on the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris in December of 2015, another statement on the situation in Israel and Palestine, and then once again, let me draw your attention to the pilgrimage of justice and peace. Keeping this high on our agenda, the moderator of the reference group was invited to 2 meetings, while moderators of commissions were also invited to one of the meetings. And you'll see listed here some of the very important things that have been acknowledged as a part of that pilgrimage. We've appointed a director of faith and order, appointed a director of communication, selected 4 young persons for each of the consultative bodies. Now I'm going to Chapter 3, matters monitored by the Executive Committee. Within the framework of our responsibilities, we've dealt with these matters: receiving the reports of the General Secretary, accompanied and guided the program planning, discussed the reports of the consultative and advisory bodies. And you see the list then of the following ecumenical initiatives that we did. We had a collaboration with UNICEF under the overall heading, Churches Engaging for Children in the Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace. and we encouraged a stronger cooperation between the WCC and UNICEF, underlying that this partnership would also contribute to the dialogue on violence against children. At the request of the committee, a memorandum of understanding for cooperation was prepared, highlighting the ecumenical ethos and the values as guiding principles for the planning and implementation of joint work. We also accompanied and directed our work with ACT Alliance and the collaboration there. And there's a report of the consultation jointly organized with ACT Alliance, the Malawi consultation in 2014, that has been received, and the proposal for a deeper cooperation between the Fellowship of WCC, ACT Alliance, and the specialized ministries. This has been affirmed. The recommendations from the report, having both a direct impact on the relationships of the programmatic work, were followed up and monitored. Then you see again listed that we have received and discussed progress reports of the financial strategy from 2014 to 2017, progress reports on the income development strategy, reports on investments, reports on compliance with the policy for the offices outside of Switzerland, monitoring the financial results from BASE, receiving and discussing and commenting on communication reports. And now Chapter 4, matters studied by the Executive Committee and recommendations to the Central Committee for action. All of the items listed now are in documents that are submitted to the Central Committee for action. Applications on membership that we have carefully monitored in preparing, and 2 of them are submitted to the Central Committee for decision. Applications for recognition of an ecumenical organization in the working relationship with the WCC. This will be submitted to the Central Committee for action. Nominations to consultative bodies, proposals for new candidates to governing and consultative bodies were studied and are brought to the Central Committee for action. Policy for non-active member churches. The need to revise the policy developed by the Central Committee was confirmed. The proposal was made that a list of non-active member churches be monitored by the Executive Committee. The policy is referred to the Committee for action. The midterm election of the Executive Committee. The process of the midterm election was discussed at length as clarifications were needed, since this is the first time a new rule would be implemented. The committee offered guidance to the General Secretary and accompanied him, affirming a final decision regarding the composition of the next Executive Committee, knowing that this belongs to the Central Committee. Then, working on membership of the Assembly Planning Committee and the Assembly Worship Planning Committee, this also will be for action at this Central Committee meeting. Then policies on representation, a questionnaire was prepared and addressed to the members of the governing and consulting bodies. Unfortunately, we didn't receive very many responses, even though we sent out over 700 questionnaires. Now, Chapter 5, recommendations of the Central Committee regarding the report of the Executive Committee. This is what you set up for us 2 years ago at the Central Committee meeting, that we would include these things in our report. So now, to show you some of the work of the subcommittees, there is listing here some of the work of the program subcommittee. Then on the next page, you will see the work from the finance subcommittee listed, and then the work of the personnel, staffing, and nomination subcommittee, the work of the public issues subcommittee, and the audit committee. A comment then on strengthening relationships. In your recommendation to strengthen the relationships between and among the member churches with our ecumenical partners, we've taken this up in all of the work that we have been doing. The General Secretary has extensively visited the member churches and ecumenical partners and has included representatives of the churches and partners in the visiting delegations. A full overview of the visits can be found in the reports of the General Secretary to the Executive Committee. Regional staff teams have been formed to intensify visits to member churches and ecumenical partners, to listen to their experiences, their insights, and their concerns, and to include their input in the planning projects and activities. The committee has encouraged and supported the General Secretary in his efforts to increasingly plan and implement projects and activities in consultation and cooperation with the member churches and ecumenical partners. And joint consultative bodies have been formed to strengthen the relations with the Roman Catholic Church and with the Pentecostal churches. Further, the participation in the Global Christian Forum and in the Conference of Secretaries of the Christian World Communions has continued, and relations with the World Evangelical Alliance have been strengthened. And finally, some concluding remarks. Assessing the work of our committee over this period, it could be observed that in response to our strategic objectives that we approved at our Central Committee meeting 2 years ago, the number of activities planned and implemented together with the member churches and the ecumenical partners has increased. The relations with the United Nations bodies have become stronger, which has made the Council's work in public witness in a number of areas more effective. The Council has strengthened its profile in accompanying churches and ecumenical organizations in the peace building in a number of countries. Communications has become stronger because of a more effective use of social media and a more central place in the life and the work of the member churches in our communication, especially the website and the weekly newsletter. And despite the financial difficulties, mainly due to the unexpected developments in the exchange rates, cooperation between the Executive Committee, the leadership, and the staff has allowed for an uninterrupted continuation and stabilization of the work with a more intensified focus on some important aspects, especially peace building. So this, as you can see, is a thorough report that I've simply tried to highlight for us.
Thank you very much. This is the report of the Executive Committee, and we'd like to see if you have any comments before you receive it. Yes, addition by the General Secretary.
Moderator, the Executive Committee made an appointment at its meeting yesterday, which could not be reported in this report as it was presented or finished already before the meeting. But yesterday, the Executive Committee appointed as Director of the Office of the General Secretariat, a new position that is created as a response to several departures due to retirement in the coming month. And Mr. Stan Nofsinger was appointed for this position. He is a member of this Central Committee, so we welcome him both as a Central Committee member these days, but after this Central Committee he will be serving as staff of the World Council of Churches.
Could he stand, please? Can you please stand? Thank you. Any other comments to the report, questions, points of clarification? Most of the sections of this report are referred to the Central Committee for action and decision. I therefore will ask the Central Committee to show your cards as you receive it as information, please. Thank you very much. I see no blue card. Thank you. And now we will move on and ask the General Secretary to welcome our young adults who are here to assist us and to make our life much more easy as we interact with each other and as we pilgrim together. General Secretary.
Moderator, we have the privilege both to see but also to welcome 15 young people from several Scandinavian countries at this meeting to help and to serve and also to participate with us in the fellowship. Please come forward. As you see, they are well equipped and also well motivated for the work, we know. Thank you for offering your time, but also your commitment to the Central Committee, but also to the ecumenical movement in this way. May God bless this as an experience for you that will also motivate you for your further service. Welcome.
Can they say their names? Can they say their names?
We would like to hear your names and from where you come.
My name is Catherine, and I'm from Denmark. My name is Frida, and I'm from Norway.
My name is Julia, and I'm from Finland.
My name is Laura, and I'm from Denmark.
I am Vivi, I'm from Finland.
I'm Christian, I'm from Estonia.
My name is Katarina, I am the head steward and I'm from Finland, and we are also having Emily at the reception serving at the moment there.
So, my name is Mikko and I'm from Finland.
My name is Stine Olava and I'm from Norway.
My name is David and I'm from El Salvador and Finland.
My name is Mikaela and I am from Finland.
My name is Kevisa. I come from Albania, but I live in Oslo.
My name is Ingrid and I'm from Trondheim.
Matthias, also from Finland.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we encourage Central Committee members, advisors, all participants to interact with our stewards as they seek to know more about the ecumenical movement and the pilgrimage. At this stage, may I invite the General Secretary to share announcements with us?
Moderator, the following announcements should be noticed. We are mentoring the program meetings. There is an initial gathering of all people involved within the ECHOS, the Youth Commission's body mentor program. And we're having a brief gathering at lunchtime at 1:45 to 2:30 in room Mollenberg. Please arrive promptly at 1:45. We also have instructions for procession. If you want to, change clothes for procession and do so at lunchtime. It is half an hour normal pace walk, but you see the weather and what you think you would need for this walk. Departing from the conference exit or entrance upstairs from the conference hall. And you must have your ticket for the reception with you and be ready to present it. If you do not have a ticket yet, please see the registration desk before the procession. About the dinners at the hotel, for those who are paying the board and lodging, you will be charged for dinners unless you inform the hotel. Please do so, preferably 24 hours ahead of time, that you will not be taking dinner at the hotel. And then about the St. John's Eve's excursion on Thursday, the 23rd of June. For those who have not yet signed up for this excursion, please do so by 4 o'clock today with the registration desk to facilitate that we have food and transport for all who sign up. With this, moderator, I'm done with the announcement, and I think we actually are ahead of time and are blessed with more time for our fellowship.
Thank you very much. we'd like to have a moment of silence before we take a break, and to just thank God for this morning session. And as we break, we'll be reconvening at 11:30 on the dot, please. And the moderator is our vice moderator, His Eminence, Professor Dr. Gnadius of Sasima, after the break. Thank you. Enjoy your break.